You know I got your number all night. I'm always on your team, I got your back, alright. Taking those losses if it treats you right. I wanna put you into the spotlight. If the world will only know what you've been holding back. Heart attacks every night. Oh, you know it's not right. I will follow you way down, wherever you may go. I follow you way down to your deepest low. I'll always be around, wherever life takes you. You know I follow you. Call you up, you've been crying all night. You're only disappointed in yourself, alright. Taking those losses if it treats you right. I wanna take you into the sunlight. If the world would only know what you've been holding back. Heart attacks every night. Oh, you know it's not right. I will follow you way down, wherever you may go. I follow you way down to your deepest low. I'll always be around, wherever life takes you. You know I follow you. You know I follow you. Wherever life takes you. You know I follow you. You're not the type to give yourself enough love. Should live a life hand in a tight glove. I wish that I could fix it for you. But instead I'll be right here coming through. I will follow you way down, wherever you may go. I follow you way down to your deepest low. I'll always be around, wherever life takes you. You know I follow you. You know I follow you. Wherever life takes you. You know I follow you.
Here, okay, welcome. Hi, my name's Rob Kinder. I'm the principal here at Davis School for Independent Study, wrapping up my 4th year here, and I worked previously at a very similar school in Natomas, Natomas Charter School, where I had a similar role for 4 years before that. So excited to continue to evolve alternative education and with this next step, especially in bringing in a virtual program. So let's see here. Just gonna pop over here. So what we're going to be doing is that this is our second of several planned information meetings. So in addition to the several ways we will show you how to get information, you'll also be able to tell those who missed tonight that they can attend another meeting. Tentative date for that looks like going to be the 19th of May. And that point, we're going to be getting a little bit more in detail and have some breakout rooms and things like that. I'll talk more about that in a moment. Also, this recording can be posted on the website, on our website, which Bo's going to paste in the chat there. Let me just talk a little bit about logistics for this evening too. So if you look down at the bottom of your screen, many of you are familiar with Zoom. Some of you are familiar with the more functions, and there's not as many on this because this is a webinar, but what you can do is if you have a question at any point during this presentation, you can type a question into that Q&A button there. And one of the team will address your question. When we get to the end, they'll address questions as I will live as well. So that's going to be the way to answer questions now. We'll have, of course, our website will answer a lot of questions, as you continue to research. And then we'll have a few other options to get information at the end of the meeting. So, all right, let's jump in. And the next slide, please. So, okay, who are we? We are the Davis School for Independent Study. We have been around for 3 decades. We are alternative, we're innovative, and we serve students K through 12. We offer differentiated, high quality curricular pathways. And we have been doing individualized instructions, like I said, for 3 decades. When we graduated our first student in 1991. We value and prioritize personal attention and strong relationships among staff, students, and families. And you're going to see that as a permeating theme. I'll be talking about all 3 of our programs tonight. And that is something that we take very seriously. And we really believe that by developing relationships with our students and making that a priority, then we're better suited and better equipped to be able to educate them. It is also important to recognize that we have been a technology leader in the district for many years as well. We've been using a learning management system, not unlike what you might be familiar with Canvas, for several years before Canvas was adopted by the district. So to put it bluntly, my team rocked distance learning. We were ready for that, and we knew how to do it right when that happened. And so over the last year and a half or so, or year and a few months, we've been really working on perfecting that craft, and that culminates in the virtual program that I'm going to talk about tonight. Next slide, please. Well, I'm really happy to share our concept of the future of virtual learning in our district tonight. Our purpose and vision is to develop a program that maintains high expectations for student learning so that they experience academic rigor and develop the critical skills outlined in our graduate profile, while also tending to our students' social emotional health. In order to achieve this, our guiding principles are defined by personalized learning that is responsive to the needs of all of our students' individualized, diverse needs, as well as flexibility and choice so that students own their educational experience. We also aim to make available options for college and career readiness so that students can pursue their interest. So let's dive in. Next slide, please. So what you get here is a snapshot of our existing programs. This is our current program for the Davis School for Independent Study. We refer to it as DSIS, so I'll probably say that from now on. DSIS, so it's an alternate innovative schools for students K-12, and I talked about that earlier. Some of the keys of our programs that we have right now, we have 2 programs. We have a homeschool program that serves K through 8th grade students, and we have a secondary hybrid program that's 7th through 12th. Each of these programs at their core have a one-on-one meeting with a teacher every week. The supervisory teacher, which we will talk about later, is our first line of defense in educating students and building relationships. As a homeschool, it's really, as a homeschool parent and student, it's really a partnership with the teacher. And the parent facilitates the learning with district curriculum and resources, and we help you to accomplish your goals. But the parent definitely takes a more leading role in the education of the child. So very different approach to education, and we have a really close-knit community that has a lot of community events and activities, even during the pandemic, but moving forward as we bring those kids back in person next year. Our hybrid program is really what you think of more as a community college environment, but smaller. Our students come to class maybe 1 to 3 days a week. Some of them are on site every day because we have the ability for them, we have a place for them to come and be and work. Small group and tutorial support is commonplace. All the classes are half the size, if not less, which you'd expect in a traditional secondary school setting. And our students do have concurrent enrollment at our local junior highs as well as Davis Senior High. And what that means is that our students do take a minimum of 4 courses with us. And then we offer, generally their core classes, we offer electives, but they have the ability to take classes as well at those sites that we might not offer, or that they want to just take in a different venue. This is going to be a question that's going to come up as we look at the virtual program. That is something that we are looking into. We can't say right now that we're going to offer concurrent enrollment for our virtual students at the junior high or the high school, but that's something that we'll be able to answer pretty soon, and we feel pretty confident that there's going to be some continuity between the programs. Okay, next slide, please. So this is what the snap, when you look at the snapshot of what I just talked about, and then kind of our next program. So now we're taking our experience to the next steps for the virtual program. And this program offers both elementary and secondary options with built-in structured teacher support, with live, so synchronous, we're used to those terms by now, right? Instruction for our K through 6 students, and flexible learning opportunities for our 7 through 12 students. So just take a minute and see that there's some differences. I'm going to dig into these 2. Our elementary program is much more structured, and our secondary program offers a lot more flexibility. Both programs have one-on-one meetings with a teacher. So we are upgrading the distance learning experience essentially that your elementary school or your secondary student might have had, in that, that every student will have a parent-teacher conference, if you will, at the elementary level every 2 weeks. And that same meeting is student and teacher for the 7th through 12th grader every 2 weeks. Small groups, tutorial office hours, all those things are also a part of the virtual academy. All right, next slide, please. So here's a nice little graphic when you think about flexibility. So here's why flexibility is important for different people, right? And it appeals to multiple learning styles. We really look to accommodate those families who needs flexibility in their schedule. Maybe it's parent work, maybe it's student work, maybe it's family, maybe it's travel. Family travels a lot, could be something with a parent's job or what have you. And this could be a way that a student could continue to get the education in town while also traveling, sports, religious obligations, and other extracurriculars. So, a traditional school, obviously, you need to be in your seat every day. That's not a lot of flexibility, but it certainly works for a lot of us and our children. And our virtual elementary offers a similar structure of a seated traditional elementary school, but of course, from home or wherever, from a distance. Our secondary hybrid program is, a mix. It's structured. There are face-to-face live classes, but there's also flexibility in asynchronous, so independent work as well. And then our secondary virtual program is really where the flexibility really is the key. So let me dig into the programs individually. Next slide, please. So we're talking about the elementary virtual academy now. So in the elementary program, students will attend daily live synchronous, right, classes via Zoom in the morning, not unlike what a lot of our elementary students experience during distance learning, while leaving afternoons free for asynchronous learning and some other opportunities, which I'll talk about in a moment. Students will experience whole group classes, small group support, one-on-one instruction, and relationship building with their teacher. Asynchronous, so independent lessons, will utilize Canvas, iReady, Edgenuity, and other resources that you might be familiar with already, and some new resources that we want to make sure that we utilize as well. Social emotional learning, so another acronym, so SEL, social emotional learning, will be emphasized daily and throughout our program. I mentioned bi-monthly one-on-one parent, student, and teacher meetings are built into student schedules, as well as weekly enrichment opportunities. And we can talk a little bit about more. I'll dig in more on those in this moment here too. All right, next slide, please. So here's a sample schedule for our elementary virtual program. So you're wondering what kind of structure my day might look like. Well, here's what it might look like. It's a snapshot of what a virtual elementary program will look like. So schedules will be constructed and structured in a way that is consistent and easy for students and parents to understand and follow. Mornings will consist of live instruction with breaks to complete assignments, and teachers will utilize breakout room functions for small groups and differentiated instruction. So this group, I'm going to put you in this breakout room. You guys are going to work on this. I'm going to talk to these guys here and break up. This is how you can manage more students in a smaller environment. And then, all right, you're going to work on that, and I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go over here, so the breakout rooms really offer some cool functions and opportunities for us in that way. Afternoons, though, are flexible with options for enrichment. And of course, students will have their one-on-one meeting with their teacher every other week. So if you take a look here and see, so some of the enrichment opportunities we're talking about might be, art, Spanish, physical education will be built in. One-on-one meetings are on, might be on Tuesday and Thursday, and that would be every other week. This is when the teacher's trying to get those done. So those times, if you don't have a one-on-one meeting, is independent and flexible, and you could do independent workshop, reading workshop, what have you. Also, different small groups depending on the needs of the students, extra support in math, English, and so on, reading, writing. We are looking at, making sure that we have the technology in place so that teachers can really see what their kids are doing. I'll come back to that in a second. Consistency, support, differentiation, enrichment. These are some of the common themes that we intend to incorporate into our virtual classrooms. Next slide, please. So let's talk about our secondary virtual academy. DSIS endeavors to be relationship-based even in virtual setting. And if I keep saying that, it's because we really mean it. It's true. Our primary focus is relationship-based education. So students will meet one-on-one with their supervising teacher bi-monthly for support and oversight. Edgenuity courseware will be utilized through Canvas to offer asynchronous, so fully flexible courses, meaning they can work on them at their own time and the time that works for them. Some classes, including many electives, such as art and foreign language, will have a live learning opportunity, meaning face-to-face workshops and classes. So there will be those opportunities for those students that desire. So we intend to offer what we're calling an SEL block, which I'm going to talk more about in a moment. And that's really individualized per student, tailored to their social emotional needs. And it culminates in a passion project. So pretty cool opportunity there. And we're going to offer what we're calling a Jumpstart to College, where our 9th through 12th grade students are encouraged to take one course per year through our Sacramento City College Partnership Program. And so that is something that we're super excited about. We want our students to take classes with us, but get a leg into a college environment as well. And not only that, but our local Sac City branch here in Davis. Next slide, please. So there's going to be reasons that people are going to apply to our school. We are still in a pandemic, and some families might decide that this is something that they want to continue doing short term. But we are finding that a percentage of people and students, staff, teachers, and parents, this really worked for them. And it proportionally, it might be a small percentage, but it's big enough percentage that it makes sense for us to build a new program around that to support those students' needs. And so there's, taking into consideration that I want a virtual program, but also need to think about, is this right for me? Is this right for my family? Is this right for my child? So while our K-6 elementary program is more structured and offers a mostly live curriculum, students are still at a distance and will benefit from some of these strengths, like being self-motivated, organized, with good time management skills, working well independently, can advocate, things like that. Obviously, our elementary students, these catching the theme that they're more structured, they have more structure in their schedules, and we will do a lot of that for them. But as they grow and they're in middle school, we want to make sure that they have these skills so that they can go on to be successful graduates and, of course, successful adults. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to go through this one because I've used this term a lot. Supervising teacher is what we call the one who monitors the student above all. And now the supervising teacher at the elementary program is their teacher. But this is kind of what you might think of as an advisory or a homeroom at a traditional school, but it is much more than that. Every DSIS student is assigned a supervising teacher. They oversee the student's course load and progress. So they are checking in on everything, every subject, and life. They are that number one line of support for everything that student needs and the parent needs. You're going to have a lot of support at the virtual program and in DSIS in general from me, from my team, but the supervising teacher is really the core component of our program. And so, like I mentioned earlier, depending on the program, some meet every week, some meet every other week. And this is the rough time frame that generally they'll work together one-on-one with their teacher. So if you're in the elementary homeschool program, you're meeting 1 hour per week. Same with our secondary hybrid program. If you're in the elementary virtual or secondary virtual, you're meeting every other week. All right, next slide, please, Bo. Okay, so I mentioned social emotional learning, so SEL. So it's a hot topic in education today, but it's really not just a buzzword. It goes around relationships, like I mentioned before. Our experience in relationship-based learning has always differentiated DSIS from other programs. So it is important to us that our newest program builds on this strength that we know makes it tremendous, and we know that it makes a tremendous difference in academic outcomes for our students. Research confirms that social emotional learning can be taught, modeled, and practiced, and that it leads to improvements in attitudes, relationships, academic performance, and school climate. But the benefits really go beyond there, as we all know, and we've all experienced and witnessed with our children over this time. This is something it's a key element of anybody's life, period, and any child's education. but really vital, we feel, when we're talking about working with our kids from a distance. So we built this component of our virtual program around these key competencies that I mentioned. Students will work with their supervising teachers to create a 4-segment SEL block each year. So I previewed that earlier. This tailored approach will support skill development within the context of individual interest, giving students a voice in designing their own personal growth. So, and there's a little bit of layout in this slide here too. So that's going to be a core component, especially of our middle ages. So we're talking, our elementary program is very structured. Social emotional supports are built in, and we're actually working on building in those enrichments right now. Our 7th, 8th, and 9th graders in particular are able to participate in this SEL block plan. And then our 10, 11, 12th graders really focus in on the college opportunities that we have, as well as other opportunities. Okay, next slide, please. So when you think about technology, there's yes, we're talking about a tech-rich environment, but there's the basics. Your child should have a quiet workspace, just like we would want a personal device or a district-provided Chromebook. Personal headset, is helpful, but we also have headsets from the district as well. Reliable internet is key. If that is an issue, we do have ways we can support internet at home from the district as well. So really, we don't want technology to be a reason that we can't support our students. So we definitely can work with students on that. So here's a little list about what we provide. We provide the software, we provide the way to get to it, we provide all that stuff, the Zoom account, the Gmail account, everything that your typical school would provide plus more. And so I also mentioned, we are looking at different things like document cameras for our elementary students at home so that the teacher can actually see their writing. We really want to try and simulate the most, the in-person environment while being able to allow for a virtual environment. Okay, next question, please. Or slide, excuse me. Okay, so we will utilize tools that our students are already familiar with and take advantage of those tools' expanded capabilities. You probably recognize some of these icons in the Bitmoji classroom and all that. We've learned much about the use of this technology, though, that's for sure, not just for the last year and a half, but really, like I've mentioned, for many years before, as DSIS has been the leader of using a learning management system and some of this technology in the district. And so we're integrating these best practices into this program to optimize the virtual learning experience. Next slide, please. For our secondary program, we offer a complete A through G, meaning UC approved college prep curriculum with a variety of electives, including arts, foreign language, and also career technical education, so also known as CTE. And that's something that we will be continuing to update information on. We really are working on developing a CTE pathway for our students that is, gives students an option that is, we want our students to be college and career ready when they graduate from DSIS. Okay, next slide, please. So there's our website. It should be posted in the chat as well for a quick link, but that's where you're going to find more information. We're updating it all the time. This is a new program, so there are new things developing all the time. You can visit at dsis.djusd.net for more information, but also not just about the virtual program, but I encourage you to get in there and dig deeper too on our homeschool and hybrid program. Details on how to enroll are all laid out for you, as are applications for every program. Every program has applications live now. And then there's also, I'm going to give you an opportunity to submit questions on a form in case you think of something later in a moment. So also today's presentation is going to be posted there at some point tomorrow. So if you missed it, or excuse me, if you have friends, family that missed it, or you want to see it again, it will be there. I mentioned a tentative next information meeting on May 19th, where we're going to dig a little bit deeper into each program. And I also would be speaking at the parent engagement night, which I know district will be promoting the information on that in the coming weeks. That's on May 12th. Okay, so now we're going to go to questions, and I'm sure that my team has been typing away here. It looks like we do have a lot of questions. So I'm going to do my best to answer these. Before I do that, as my team is typing away, answering your questions, I see that. In the chat here, you see that I just put in it's a Google form. It's a survey, basically. But if you want to record that link, open it up now, keep it on your desktop. If you think of something later and we didn't get to it, or you forgot to ask or something, whatever, there's a way you can ask and we will respond to the question after this is over. All right, so Yolanda, I'm going to jump in on that question. Can you speak to the students that are currently involved in special programs such as AIM? That's a good question. We actually offer, AIM, pathways in our existing homeschool program, and we do offer the OLSET. Our students take that every year in the 3rd grade. So that would be something where we talk about differentiated and breakout rooms and different enrichment options. That would be something that we would definitely be looking at in the future as we continue to build here. And I know people are asking, or I know my staff is answering some of these questions, but I'm gonna read them out loud as well, so that everybody can hear. So, do we support students that have an IEP with special education? The answer is yes, we do. In DSIS in general, there is a process in which there is a referral process. So we are school choice. So students apply. With that, we would have an IEP, and we would meet as a team and figure out if placement is appropriate, and then we'd make a placement. So we do have students that have IEPs, and we do have special education staff on site. So I'm gonna start answering a question here about can you explain what sorry, let's see here. You mentioned a minimum of 4 classes in the hybrid program. So it's just for students to be a part of DSIS, and really any school, you have to take a certain amount of classes in that program. And the Independent Study Ed Code asks that you take 4 classes with us. And so that might mean your students taking English, history, math, and science in-house with us, which would make sense, and I would encourage that. But also, let's say that they want to take anatomy and French, courses that we don't have right now on site in the hybrid program or in a virtual program, then those are classes that you could take off site at DHS. But also, those are similar classes that you might be able to take at the community college as well. So those are big developments there. So our available supports for students with IEPs. So currently we have study skills once a week. And of course we allow for modifications and accommodations. And I mentioned, earlier, I mean, so there is not as much support in our hybrid program for students with IEPs as a traditional program. They would have a daily study skills course. Now for our virtual program, we are looking at a lot of options. And again, this is a brand new school that we're starting in August, but we are looking at having daily study skills courses available to our students. Are there any 7th and 8th grade courses that are not offered in college prep? No, so 7th and 8th grade courses are not A through G. So our courses are the same that they would take at their site. As far as the ones that do need to be A through G, all of our virtual courses that need to be college prep are certified as A through G, and we actually add classes every year. Yeah, so, and as far as our hybrid program, we're actually adding a foreign language component next year. So we actually are able to be completely self-sustaining A through G. And we do graduate students to UCs and private schools every year. All right, I'm going to answer Claire's questions. I see that my teachers are answering, and I appreciate that. And that one is, that one just left because one of my teachers is answering and knew the answer. So let's see. All right, I'm going to answer Lou's question. Any primary differences in the role that teacher has in a virtual elementary program compared to what has been occurring over the last year? Not necessarily. And I can't speak to every classroom. I know that my kids had a wonderful experience. Well, my kids had, one of them had a tougher experience in the beginning of distance learning, and then both of them had an amazing experience this year, with their teacher. But I noticed that, and it's not consistent across the board. So we are really aspiring to make a structured, consistent schedule. The big difference, other than the fact that we've had time to really hone and try and perfect distance learning, the difference is the one-on-one teacher meeting. So instead of a parent-teacher student conference, one at the end of the first trimester, and maybe again in the spring, we're talking every other week, and that's the key. So you're going to be able to develop that relationship with the teacher, where that you are literally seeing each other every 2 weeks at the least. So if my son travels and can't be in class, it is 100% online. The high school program in particular is very flexible. We're setting it up so that the students, other than their meeting every 2 weeks, would be able to craft a schedule that is completely flexible, and they would not have to attend anything on a time. So at a certain time, the local community colleges throughout the nation and the world probably have been shifting to that as well, less set time and more asynchronous curriculum. We find the benefit in the set time of live courses, but we recognize that it's not going to be optimal for everybody. So we want to make sure we have those options. Spanish, we intend to offer Spanish for all of our programs. We do not offer Spanish immersion. So if you're, not to say you can't continue practicing your Spanish and you will be able to take courses in it, but we're not going to have a Spanish immersion program, unfortunately. How many students are assigned to a supervising teacher? It really varies, but let's talk elementary school. If there are 24 kids in that virtual elementary school class, those are their kids. And that teacher would have those kids, and they'd be self-contained, right? And plus we'd supplement with, of course, enrichment with other educators and programs. At the high school level, it really just varies. At most, a teacher who is strictly a supervising teacher and only worked one-on-one with kids for meetings and didn't do any teaching of blended classes in the hybrid program or anything like that would have 28 students at most. Most of our teachers have about 15. Does the community college class have to be taken from Yolo County Community College? No, I mean, students can take courses from any, it's actually not Yolo Community, it's Sac City is the local Davis branch. Students can also take class at Woodland Community College. But we are working on setting up, and we're in conversations about a program that would allow our students more of a direct pathway to take courses. So when our counselor is signing your child up for their 10th grade schedule, say, okay, now what class are you going to take this year at the community college? Here's the paperwork you need to do it. Let's get it going. We in the past have pushed out this information to the community, and some kids take advantage of it, but we want to facilitate it for our students. Got that. Let's see here. We're already, okay. Sharon, if we're already enrolled at DSIS, how do you switch to the virtual academy? You'll want to, that's a good question. You'll still want to complete the application, but most of the other paperwork that goes along with it, you wouldn't have to submit. It would be a pretty easy transfer. But yeah, so we do have the application online, and then you can just submit it online, and then we'll reach out to you. We have already been getting applications, and I will be reaching out personally to each family once we have your application, so we can talk about next steps and make sure that you understand what's going on as we next few months as we prepare for the first day of school on the 25th. It's a good question. So Frederick says, can my son participate in Davis High School activities if it is 100% online? So our existing programs, students can participate in functions at the other sites. For example, our students play sports, they go to prom, they do those things. And of course the concurrent enrollment. And so it's a good question. And right now we feel that it's going to be realistic for our virtual programs virtual students to be able to do the same thing especially activities and sports. I would be surprised if we weren't able to offer that. The concurrent enrollments question is still a question. However, we're thinking that and really hoping that students will still be able to take split site classes at the high school. We just have to figure out numbers and logistics. So it's important to me that we tell you what we have and what we intend to have. And I don't make false promises, but that is something that we think is going to come to fruition. Students, so we are working with the community college so every student that's not 16 can actually get a waiver to go to community college courses. So we are working, here's what we're aspiring to for the community college classes, that if we have enough students at each grade level, then they will actually work with us to create courses just for our students. So for example, an ethnic studies course just for DSIS virtual 12th graders, or a college readiness class just for 9th grade students. So, there's a lot of things that we're looking at, and we are looking at getting some different waivers to be able to accommodate that. Is there a deadline for applying to the virtual academy? So look for a survey. I know you got a lot of emails from the school district this year, but ours are going to be the best, I promise. But now look for a short survey, and we'll title it that way too, about the virtual program. The folks, and there'll be a few questions literally, and one of them will be, are you interested in enrolling in the virtual academy? That's going to really help us to establish numbers and all that. And so we will likely be setting an enrollment date in the end of May based around that. I saw a question earlier that I didn't get to, and it went off my screen because the teacher probably answered it already. Will students be able to come to DSIS or leave DSIS mid-year? Yes, I mean, we're a school in the district like any other. And like any other, if you leave this classroom and go into that classroom, you may find that you're behind in this and you're ahead in that. So that's the downside of transitioning schools mid-year. But yes, no, we find that independent study and virtual school and homeschool is wonderful for some people, and it's not the best fit for others. And so we are part of the Davis Joint Unified School District. So we do work back and forth, our students going as needed. Oh, there's that question again. Okay, so let's see. Oh, good question. So and Lori's answering, but I'll take this one too, Lori. Is the DSIS virtual program expected to replace the virtual offerings from Davis Joint Unified School District? Yes. So this is the virtual option for next year, K-12. So it is the expectation that the pandemic will do what we're telling it to do and go away, right? I know that none of us can commit to anything like that, obviously, but it is the expectation that the sites will resume traditional schedules as before the pandemic, and we will be able to fill the void then left for a distance learning option. And I say again with confidence, we're the ones doing it, and we're the ones tasked with this because we're really good at it. And we were really good at this kind of education before the pandemic hit. Good question. Anna, let's see here. Do you know if community courses will be also online? Yes. So, I don't want to get my numbers wrong here, but I believe the dean over there said that now 70% of their courses were approved to be online, and they aim to continue to keep a lot of these courses online because the demand is such for them. So at the beginning of the pandemic, a small percentage of courses at community college were allowed to be online. Now, even lab sciences and things like that have approval. So yes, they would be online. And in fact, a good portion of them would also be asynchronous. So in theory, your student could be taking virtual classes with us and virtual college classes and be completely independent and on their own schedule, if they so choose to do that. Just to clarify, yeah, if your student is attending Da Vinci but wants to stay virtual, they would need to leave Da Vinci. Same with Patwin and DHS and any other site. Yeah. Now, of course, like I said earlier, I can't speak for the pandemic. I was sitting here in July trying to plan for a virtual option for the district, thinking the other sites would remain open, and obviously that didn't happen. So And we got an SEL question there, so I will let one of the teachers answer that one. Okay. I think that we are.
Mr. Kinder, there was an AIM question at the top. Can you look at that one?
Let's see here. So, okay, Tammy, let's see. How is AIM accommodated through virtual or have enrolled through those courses? Is there an equivalent? So that's, I kind of touched on that just a little bit. And so we will, these courses are differentiated. So at the elementary level, we're talking about these class is differentiated. We do have breakout rooms and we do have extra support. And in the afternoon, when we have enrichment opportunities, that's when that will be accommodated. Now, how robust this program will be for our AIM students, that's the next step. And that's a question that will more likely be able to really give you a detailed answer as we continue building out the program over the next few months. Okay. All right, so what are the next steps after applying? Diane is answering that. And what does DS? I guess, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to, and the AIM details, I'll have to continue to dig out the details, but the more questions we have, the more that we can figure out answers. And again, I'll type that. That didn't make sense, but the more these questions that we have, that they keep coming up, we're continuing to develop a program around, the community feedback, and we'll have better answers in the months to come. And this is where I just posted again, there, our Google form, the survey. If something comes up, please type it in there and we'll respond to after the meeting. Or do we offer 7 periods throughout the year for junior high and high school students? Traditionally, we encourage 6, but we offer 7, yes. To Simona. Okay. I feel like I've answered most of the questions, or my team is tackling it there. So yeah, all right. Well, hey, thank you everybody so much for joining our session here tonight. Look forward to seeing you again if you're interested at Parent Engagement Night, which is on May 12th. And the district will be sending information around that. And if you want to bring people into the next live information session, if you're more, there will be in that opportunity, we're looking at having breakout rooms to really get in and dig, deeper and answer some of these questions. That would be on May 19th. So we are really excited about this. The cool thing about this, right, is that, we are all about alternative education. And this is a really cool opportunity for us. So we feel like we have a really cool program over the last 3 decades. And now we have the opportunity to take it to the next level. And we have a lot of pride in it, and we want to continue that tradition of relationship-driven student achievement. So looking forward to all that to come, and thank you again for joining us.
I like the way you talk, I like the things you wear. I want your number tattooed on my arm in ink, I swear. Cause when the morning comes, I know you won't be there. Every time I turn around, you disappear. I wanna blow your mind, just come with me, I swear. I'm gonna take you somewhere warm, j'adore la mer. Cause when the morning comes, I know you won't be there. Every time I turn around, you disappear. I talk. I like the things you wear. I want your number tattooed on my arm in ink, I swear. 'Cause